Opening things up is the women's WarGames match. We have Bianca Belair, Becky Lynch, Asuka, Alexa Bliss, and as she is introduced, Michin, Mia Yim.
Yeah, so some controversy over the past week about exactly whether or not this was an official name change. WWE.com had it changed officially to Michin and then changed back to Mia Yim. So I don't know if they can really make up their minds about it, but I think she's at least going to be called both sort of interchangeably.
Like a nickname, yes.
Yeah.
And they're going up against Bayley, Dakota Kai, Io Sky, Nikki Cross, and Rhea Ripley. So the way that this works, two women start for a 5-minute period, and then entrants enter every 3 minutes thereafter, with the heels having the numbers advantage in this match and the opposite for the men's match. What did you think just about the just the layout of the match in terms of the structure, the intervals, and how that worked?
Now, this feels like it's pretty classic, like WarGames rules, right? Like,
Yeah.
does it feel that any different? Because like in NXT, they would of course they added some variations. I don't know if Blood and Guts varies it up at all, but like it felt pretty standard to me, like everything, the intervals and also the number of people on each team. I liked it overall. I mean, I have certain issues, I think, with the actual match itself, but as far as like the structure of it, I didn't really see anything to complain about. Did you?
I just and it was always my complaint with WarGames is just like you really need dynamic performers in this, because you're the way these intervals were structured, like you're pretty much going 28 minutes where you have no near falls, you have no near submissions, and you have to keep that audience's attention before you can tease any kind of finishes. And it's a long ask of your audience to stay engaged when we're talking about pretty much a half hour before you can do anything meaningful in the match.
Right. What is the alternative though? Like, what is the shortest interval we've had for one of these types of matches? Like you need to give enough time for the wrestlers to actually be able to kind of build something, to build up their spots, to build up whatever tension, to set up a babyface comeback, for instance. And what is it, 2 minutes, John?
3.
Oh, 3 minutes. Yeah. I guess you can argue 2 to 3, but they wanted to pad out the show, I suppose, and give them enough time.
Well, Bianca Belair and Dakota Kai started this off, and Cole was constantly bringing up, the history, especially of the NXT performers. This was Kai's fourth WarGames match, and brings up in 2019 when she turned on her good friend Tegan Knox.
Yeah, they spoke of it almost as if it was this classic moment, and if you watched it, and certainly within NXT, I tend to agree that it was. It was one of the great things about that particular WarGames match. Yeah.
Yes, and this is Michael Cole being allowed to reference people that no longer are in the company, which there was plenty of on this show, and has been consistent with Michael Cole throughout this.
I mean, we're past that already. When we're talking about triple tails and I don't know, like
we'll get to some. He had his deep cut of the month coming up later. So match begins, and it's a nice back and forth that they have here. At one point, Belair tried to whip her with her braid, but got caught with a scorpion kick and ends up with Kai being powerbombed into the cage. In number 3 is maybe my favorite performer of the 10 in this, and that was Io Sky. She came in here outside of, she had this one kind of bungled spot in the corner, but Io Sky, when she eventually becomes a babyface, is going to be just outstanding. I thought she was great in this match. We had this crazy sequence with her and Belair, just a very athletic sequence. This is also, she's been in 4 of these WarGames matches. Now, the one issue Sky had was she tried to use the turnbuckle to kind of kick herself up into a seated drop kick and kind of got tangled in the rope. And this was a crowd that, when there was any kind of miss, they were very quick to alert them that they had screwed something up. Like this was this was not a forgiving crowd when it came to any kind of spots that did not look smooth, and they were on top of this one.
Yeah. I mean, maybe it tells you something about, I think, how I find that tends to be more the case, like with the more passion or hardcore, I suppose, a fan base might be. And maybe you just kind of got that here. It was a very noticeable screw up though. And very unusual for Io Sky.
And a pretty, like, not the most, when you look at some of the spots in this match, not the most complex one either. It just seemed to be like a timing issue. Asuka's in fourth, so she has a showdown with Io Sky and Michael Cole. While not dropping the Triple Tails reference, does refer to their history from their days in Japan. So did note that, and we just get this huge series of strikes from Asuka. Nikki Cross is in fifth, and the idea here is that Nikki Cross is out of her mind, and like she's technically part of the heel team, but she's really just out there for herself. And she brings in trash can lids and then slams the door on Asuka, and the crowd is chanting for tables. The table was incredibly over on Saturday night. And then she takes off her jacket and starts using that as a weapon on Belair and Asuka. Alexa Bliss is in sixth, and Belair needed to really try hard to take this kendo stick. She went to break it over her knee, and man, this was a knee that was not cooperating, or a kendo stick that was not cooperating, but she was bound and determined to break this kendo stick, and she finally did. I mean, it's not the easiest object to snap, but she finally did. Then Bliss and Asuka use kendo sticks, and Nikki is watching them all fighting while sitting on the perch on top of the cage, and comes off with a high cross to everyone, including her own team, which, I mean, they kind of call out, and it makes sense for this character. That she has no regard for anyone, regardless of team. It's like, here is the out-of-control character that we have recruited, but is just out here being crazy.
Yeah. I mean, this type of stuff happens all the time, even if like you didn't have a character like Nikki Cross, you know, it's a sacrifice play.
Yeah, this was our first spot off the top of the cage. More to come. Bayley is in seventh. She gets some ladders into the ring, and then she pulls out the table. This might have been the biggest pop on the show when this table got pulled out. This crowd erupted for this table. That's what they were here. These 13,000 people, they wanted to see a table break. That's it.
Forget Sasha Banks, you know, just bring a table in and make that the tag team champion.
Yeah, so what they did was they trapped Belair between the two rings and slid the table across the middle ropes to trap her and attack her. And then Cross is pulling the braid through the fence, and she's trapped. Mia Yim, Michin, which I was reminded multiple times is crazy in Korean, comes in eighth. And
this is a great way of learning a foreign language, you know, just like name a professional wrestler that word, you know, like give us another one. Baka, we know now.
We're learning tons.
Yeah.
So we got an impromptu match here with Mia Yim versus a trash can to try and get this trash can into the ring. After several tries, she did. Yeah. And then Yim dives onto Bayley from one ring to the next, and all 8 are down as the clock counts down for Rhea Ripley's entrance. She is the 9th entrant and comes in, and she is dominating. Sky then runs the ropes just like she was MJF here, teasing the dive or something. Like she just ran these ropes forever before finally hitting a seated drop kick. And then there is a cannonball by Yim onto the trash can, and Sky hits multiple trash can lid shots to the head of Yim. The final entrant is Becky Lynch. I have to say, during the countdowns, by about the 3rd entrant of the first WarGames match, that sound effect, when the clock hit 0, I was ready to retire that sound effect.
Okay, I didn't pay that close attention, but it was a
thumbs down show for me based on this sound effect. This was like a grating sound effect. I was like, this is
how did it sound again?
It was like piercing. Okay, it's like zzz. It's just constant. Go listen to it. Once you hear it once, you can't like unhear it.
I guess it must have not bothered me that much, but okay.
Give me the old horn or something or anything.
All right.
I'm nitpicking. I get it. Becky Lynch is in 10th, and the crowd, the first cross misses Becky and hits Sky with a trash can. So Becky puts the trash can over top of Io Sky, and at first I thought Io Sky was going to do you remember that WarGames where she had the trash can over her and did the moonsault?
Yep.
It's like, please do not recreate that. I don't think we need to tempt fate with that a second time. So Becky then squares off with Bayley and yells, "Get up, you little bitch." And Ripley then attacks Becky, and we see a riptide onto Becky, but the save is made by her team. Asuka hits Ripley with the poison mist that they did call the poison mist. So this was the dangerous mist. This is like Muda's it's the red mist versus the black mist. We got the blue mist here.
It's not that usual mist that's just, you know, like hydrating and refreshing. This one is lethal.
They tease like a massive Tower of Doom spot, but then they they took it apart. They didn't do it. And then Io climbs to the top of the cage for a moonsault onto Bianca Belair and Mia Yim. So very fantastic spot there from Io Sky. Cross then handcuffs Bliss and brings up, you think I forgot? But then Bliss handcuffs herself to Cross and delivers an electric chair. Unfortunately, she takes the worst of it, landing on the trash can, and the announcers call attention to that. We have Damage Control do a face-off with Belair and Lynch, and they call back to SummerSlam. Like, this was the showdown in the post-match when Damage Control returned to the company. And it leads to a manhandle slam on Kai, a KOD to Sky. So Kai and Sky get placed onto the table. Bayley gets sent into the cage with a KOD, and then Becky comes off the cage with a leg drop and pins Dakota Kai in 39 minutes and 36 seconds as the babyfaces win, and then they all just started dancing to Becky's theme song.
Yes, they did. Yeah. Our first WarGames match in WWE main roster history, and I feel like it could have been better.
I never know where you're going with these. It's so dramatic.
I think they definitely got them by the end. You know, you had an excellent sort of sequence with Becky and Bianca playing up their year of their feud with one another, and to finally see the two of them pair off together to team up made for, I think, a really heartwarming sort of like storytelling moment, plus that incredible finish of her diving off the top with that leg drop. It was spectacular, and they certainly got the crowd by the end. But I think the rest of the match, even though it had its moments, it also definitely had its issues. I, for one thing, didn't sense that much crowd sympathy for the baby faces during the extra man advantages from the heels. That's sort of like the key ingredient for these WarGames matches, you know?
And outside of Sami Zayn, I would say like across the board, that was an issue. Like with the baby faces lacking that, that crowd, like living with those baby faces to overcome. Like Becky was certainly very popular in this match, but to me, it was something that kind of hurt some of the other matches that we'll get into.
Yeah. And I don't know if that's because of a lack of care for some of the characters earlier on, or maybe it was the content of some of those portions of the match. There was a lot of sloppiness in this match with some very awkward spots, you know, like the Io spot that we mentioned. You know, just even something like me, I'm having trouble throwing a trash can into the ring. Bad landings from Bayley, you know, off of a Bianca Belair powerbomb. The 4-way superplex spot that I don't know if that was intentionally like supposed to happen at the same time. They pulled it off like in sequential order, but then like the last one happened at the same time. I understand how difficult it might be to try to like synchronize everything when it's that spread out. But even like you know, Alexa like missing the trash can when she was trying to hit that electric chair drop. I know these matches are supposed to be brutal and there's supposed to be a level of chaos attached to it, but I thought a lot of the opportunities in this match felt more like missed choreography rather than like, you know, a struggle leading to just, you know, damage. But there were positives, and to me that was Rhea Ripley here. She was made to feel incredibly special, coming in at the very end, having very tense stare downs with Becky Lynch, and you know, she feels like a really big deal right now in the women's division, elevated certainly above even Bayley and really anybody else on the heel side of things. Rhea versus Becky like is being really well built just on this alone. And I really like the team up for Becky and Bianca at the end. No Sasha chance.
No, that was not something that was evident at all on this show. I don't think that was no, it wasn't on the audience's expectation list. I think that this match, I think it benefited from the novelty of being a WarGames match, that people took it as a big deal. To me, it never reached that kind of fever pitch of a match where you were just even towards like the closing stretch for me, where you really want to peak this match. And quite frankly, I think if you're going 40 minutes, my expectation level is very high. Like that has to warrant that amount of time. And I didn't feel like that this match really lived up to that. And just from a story perspective, there are certainly directions coming out of this, but I would say at the end, it was sort of like Belair and Becky kind of arm in arm. It's almost as though that is like the two dominant forces at the end, winning it for their team. And I just, and maybe they do go to that, but I think that as well, they protected Rhea Ripley fairly well in this match. I just wanted to have something in this match where you had a more clear direction for who's the next contender that's going to emerge. Ripley, you can certainly go that way. And I mean, a lot of this too was about kind of reestablishing Becky as, one of the top women. So you had that coming out of it. This match certainly had its good points to it. Io Sky being one of them for me. I thought by and large, I mean, corner mistake or not, I thought that she looked really good in this match. But it was still, to me, like a 40-minute match. To me, it's like you almost need to be having like a match of the year level to be asking that time of your audience. I think like that's where we're at. Like that's a solid amount of time that you are asking your audience to stay engaged with.
And that's what this group and this team that's booking them are capable of. We've seen them like steal the show on these NXT WarGames matches, and like create, I think, some incredibly dramatic moments through either booking or just in-ring action. And I felt like, even compared to a lot of the NXT WarGames matches, this was beneath that standard.